Cobus, a little bit on the history, and I just want to go into Yvonne Lessing's role a little bit as well. She, according to me, is one of the unsung heroes of the Boer Bull world. She did a lot of work that was never really recognized. For instance, the typing of the very first database of the Boer Bull, which is done on a normal typewriter. All those actions and milestones was actually attributed or contributed by Yvonne. Can you give us a little bit of a description of her involvement in the breed?
Yeah, Yvonne is a very special type of person. She's a very hard worker, and she's very dedicated to everything that she does. She grew up under very difficult circumstances when she was a kid. And I think that being meticulous about what she does all the time created a very special opportunity for the SABT to be lifted out of a total mess administration-wise at the time that it was really necessary to improve the administration. I remember that when we took all the paperwork from Anneke van der Merwe, it was boxes full of papers with no organizational process involved. I remember that we found notes between all those papers which were vital in terms of correct administration, but just left and not attended to. So it was a massive job to organize the administration to a level where it was acceptable in terms of correct registrations and that type of thing.
Yeah, because of interest is the fact that there was actually no database. There was no listing of the dogs that were appraised at that stage. A question which has come up in my mind a couple of times is, you know, the initial history reflects that, yes, about 250 dogs were evaluated to form the initial group of dogs. And then a number of 72 dogs is punted, that was the F1 dogs. Was there ever a list of which dogs made up that list of 72 dogs?
Not that I can remember. I think that the first physical list was the list that Yvonne typed. And in fact, that list was typed from information that were in arch lever files. And those things were not even in alphabetical order. I remember taking all these files and sorting the files and trying to get them in alphabetical order. It was difficult because some of the dogs' names were the kennel first and some were registered as the dog's name and the kennel second. So it was rather a mess. And I think that the list that Yvonne typed on a typewriter was the first ever list of registered Boer Bulls.
So the 72 was basically at some stage an assumption that was made. You know, I think we've got about 72 dogs now. Because other dogs were added later, they were, you know, the process never really stopped at a defined point and said, this is now a closed registry, we're starting with this and going forward with this.
I'm not aware of any other list of dogs that were actually stipulated or
So I think the closest one will get is if you take the list that Yvonne typed, and I think that was in 1993 or something like that. I've got the list, and one works back and look at the oldest dogs on that list. You will probably get the closest because there were no date registration numbers. I think the dates of birth of the dogs were captured, but we'll go into the list and I'll do a bit more research.
Yeah, I think that if you take that first registry and you work back on those, you might be able to identify a group of dogs that could be
some of the
foundation stock. Yeah.
Fortunately, in the basic documentation, we also found, or in the historic documentation, we also found a number of the original appraisal score sheets of the dogs, and there's a number of dogs there that are indicated as F1. You see, and those, that will be a starting point, but it doesn't come anywhere close to the number of 72. There's obviously a lot of documents that went missing over the years, etc.
Yeah, that's true, and I think that the process of improving the breed through the F system was not much of a success, in the sense that most people did not understand. I remember one specific guy had a litter of puppies, and it was mentioned that this is the F1 process, and from the same parents, a second litter, he wanted to call that an F2. So the people did not understand what they were involved with the F system.
Yes.
They did not realize that it's a well-known activity amongst farmers to go through a process of improving or purifying a breed, and I think that was lost. That whole process was lost in 2 or 3 years after that.